Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. Dobby blinked anxiously up at Harry. Harry Potter mustn't be angry, Dobby hoped. If Harry Potter thought his friends had forgotten him, Harry Potter might not want to go back to school, sir. Harry wasn't listening. He made a grab for the letters, but Dobby jumped out of the reach. Harry Potter will have them, sir, if he gives Dobby his word that he will not return to Hogwarts. Ah, sir, this is danger you must not face. Say you won't go back, sir. No, said Harry angrily. Give me my friend's letters. Then Harry Potter leaves Dobby no choice, said the elf sadly. Before Harry could move, Dobby had darted into the bedroom door, pulled it open and sprinted down the stairs. Mouth dry, stomach hurting, Harry sprang after him, trying not to make a sound. He jumped at the last 6 stairs, landing cat-like on the carpet, looking around for Dobby. From the dining room he heard Uncle Vernon saying, "Tell Petunia that very story about those American plumbers, Mr. Mason. She's been dying to hear." Harry ran up the hall into the kitchen and felt his stomach disappear. Aunt Petunia, masterpiece of putting the mountain of cream and sugared violets, was floating up near the ceiling. On top of the cupboard in the corner crouched Dobby. "No!" croaked Harry. "Please, they will kill me." Harry Potter must say he's not going back to school. "Dobby, please." "Say it, sir." "I can't." Dobby gave him a tragic look. "Then Dobby must do it, sir, for Harry Potter's own good." The pudding fell to the floor with a heart-stopping crash. The cream splattered the windows and walls as the dish shattered. With a crack like a whip, Dobby vanished. Then were screams from the dining room, and Uncle Vernon burst into the kitchen to find Harry, rigid, that shock covered from her to foot in Aunt Petunia pudding. At first it looked like as though Uncle Vernon would manage to gloze the whole thing over. Just our nephew, very disturbed. Meeting strangers upset him, so we kept him as obsessed. He shooed the shook Manson's bed into the dining room, promised Harry he could flay him to the within an inch of his life when the Masons had left, and hanging it them up. Aunt Petunia dug some ice cream out of the freezer, and Harry, still shaken, started scrubbing the kitchen clean. Uncle Vernon might still have been able to make his deal if it hasn't been for the owl. Aunt Petunia was just hanging around the box of after-dinner mints when a huge barn owl swooped through the dining room window, dropped a letter on Mr. Mason's hat, and swooped out again. Mrs. Mason screamed like a banshee and ran from the house, shouting about lunatics. Mr. Mason stayed just long enough to tell the Dursleys that his wife was mortally afraid of birds to all shapes and sizes, Ned to ask whatever his was the idea of a joke. Harry stood in the kitchen, clutching them up for support as Uncle Vernon advanced on him, and demonic glint in his tiny eyes. "Read it!" he hissed evilly, brandishing the letter the owl had delivered. "Go on, read it!" Harry took it. It did not contain birthday greetings. "Dear Mr. Potter, we have received intelligence that a cavern charm was used at your place of residence this evening at 12 minutes past 9. As you know, underage wizards are not permitted to perform spells outside school, and for the spell work on your part may lead to expulsion from said school. Decree from the Reasonable Restriction of Underage Sorcery, 1875, Paragraph C. We would also ask you to remember that any magical activity with risks noised by members of the non-magical community, Muggles, is a serious offense under Section 13 of the International Confederation of Warlocks Statute of Secrecy. Enjoy your holidays. Your secretly Mepheldeg Hopek, Emperor Use of Magic Office, Ministry of Magic. Harry looked up from the letter and gulped. "You didn't tell us you weren't allowed to use magic outside school," said Uncle Vernon, a mad gleam dancing in his eyes. "Forgot to mention it. Slipped your mind, I dare say." He was bearing down on Harry like a treat bulldog, all his teeth bared. "Well, I've good news for you, boy. I'm looking you up. You're never going back to that school. Never. And if you try and magic yourself out, they will expel you." And laughing like a maniac, he dragged Harry back upstairs. Uncle Vernon was as bad as his word. The following morning, he paid a man to fit bars on Harry's window. He himself fitted a flat clap in the bedroom door so that small amounts of food could be pushed inside 3 times a day. They let Harry out to use the bathroom morning and evening. Otherwise, he was locked in his room around 1 o'clock. 3 days later, the Dursleys were showing no sign of relenting, and Harry couldn't see any way of his situation. He lay on his bed watching the sun sinking behind the bars of the window and wondered miserably what was going to happen to him. That was the good of magicking himself out of his room, if Hogwarts could expel him for doing it. Yet a life private drive had reached all time now. Now the Dursleys knew they weren't going to wake up as food bats. He had lost his only weapon. Dobby Dobby might have saved Harry from horrible happenings at Hogwarts. By the way things were going, he's probably starved to death anyway. The cat flap rattled until Petunia hands appeared, pushing a bowl of tin soup into the room. Harry, whose incidents were arson and hunger, jumped off his bed and seized it. The soup was stone cold, but he drank half of it in a gulp. Then he crossed the room to Hagrid's cage and tipped the soggy vegetables at the bottom of the bowl into her empty food tray. She ruffled her feathers and gave him a look of deep disgust. "It's no good turning your gray cup at it. That's all we've got," said Harry grimly. He pulled the empty bowl back on the floor next to the cat's flap and lay back down on the bed, somehow even hungrier than he had seen before the soup. Supposing he was still alive in another 4 weeks, what would happen if he didn't turn up at Hogwarts? Would someone be sent to see why he hadn't come back? Would they be able to make the Dursleys let him go? The room was growing dark. Exhausted, stomach rumbling, mind spinning out with the same unanswerable questions, Harry fell into an uneasy sleep. He dreamed that he was on a show in a zoo with a card reading "Underage Wizard" attached to his cage. People googled through the bars at him as he lay, starving and weak, on a ballot of straw. He saw Dobby's face in the crowd and shouted out, asking for help, but Dobby called, "Harry Potter is safe here, sir," and vanished. Then the Dursleys appeared and Dudley rattled the bars of the cage, laughing at him. "Stop it," Harry muttered as the rattling powered of his sword hat. "Leave me alone. Cut it out. I'm trying to sleep." He opened his eyes. Moonlight was shining through the bars of the window, and someone was goggling through the bars at him. A freckle-faced, red-haired, long-nosed someone. Ron Weasley was outside Harry's window.